Alright guys, welcome back to Masked Musings, and here is the Q&A that I put out a call for. Here are the answers to your questions. So we got a nice little assortment of questions here from the listeners, so we're going to get to them right away. First off, a couple questions from Beer Me Jesus, who is in the JRPL. And he says, do you believe Zack Sabre Jr. has what it takes to hold the top title in NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling? I think he has what it takes to hold any top title in any company, honestly. Now, whether the company actually agrees with me, that's a whole different story. I mean, he is thin as a rail. And although it's not as big of a deal with New Japan as far as body size goes. I mean, in general, most Japanese tend to be slightly smaller in stature than North Americans anyway. Although that's slowly been changing over the decades. You see a lot more larger Japanese gentlemen, Asian gentlemen, what have you. I think if he put on maybe 10 or 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, they might consider him for the top title. But I don't know. It's hard to tell where they're going these days. They've got some, like, none of their guys that have held the title as of late have been super huge, but when Kenny Omega got the title, he had just sort of worked his way up out of the junior heavyweight, and he did visibly put on some weight, but he still kept himself fairly agile and athletic too. And I mean, Okada is not super huge. He's fairly lean compared to a lot of guys out there. Tanahashi is more muscular. He's definitely built fairly well. Yeah, it's hard to tell because back in the day, a lot of the New Japan champions looked a lot like the more traditional big Japanese heavyweights. A lot of them were, slightly shorter, barrel-chested, big arms, big shoulders. But that image has sort of changed over the years, so there might be a chance for Zack Sabre Jr. I would love to see him hold the title, but it's really up to what they want image-wise, isn't it? And I don't know if he fits that mold quite as well. But as like an Intercontinental Champion or anything else like that, Tag Team Champion, Intercontinental, he might be able to do it. He's a good. I think they see him as a sort of a good mid-card, upper mid-card guy right now, and seems to be the role they're kind of keeping him in. Flirting with the main event though, so we'll see. He goes on to ask, what makes you so passionate about MLW? What makes it so good? Who are your favorite wrestlers in MLW? And then he goes on to say, what could WWE do to ever get you to like or to be heavily interested in it again? Alright, so with MLW, the thing I found really refreshing the last few weeks is they've really sort of gotten a roster locked down now, it seems. Like they've got some guys under exclusive contracts where MLW is their main focus. Like they can still work in other promotions, but they have to sort of arrange their bookings around the MLW tapings. That's their primary job, basically. So they seem to have a roster down. And with that has brought some stability to the storylines. For a while there, they were getting rated talent-wise by different companies, and guys were in and out a little too quickly for them to really lay down some solid stories. But now they do have some solid stories going on. They're playing them out fairly long term. They do solid, simple booking on their shows, which is meant to drive you towards their bigger shows, which is refreshing. They'll give you maybe, like, in the hour that they have of TV, they use all their time perfectly. They don't waste their time. Their backstage segments have gotten better. It's all just either attacks or shit-talking. The promos are all shit-talking. They're made to make you either like or hate the person talking and drive the story forward. There's very little comedy. They're much more focused on the matches and the conflicts between the people rather than trying to come up with funny skits and bullshit like that. The matches, like I said, there's usually like one really good to excellent match on the show. Then usually have a couple squash matches. Although even their squashes are fairly competitive squash matches. And I like that. So they don't necessarily bury even their jobbers all that much. Like, they make it look like there's actually a competition going on. And the way they mix their styles, too. Like, they've got a bunch of different styles. The predominant stuff is kind of lucha. Being based in Florida, and I think Miami, Florida at that, their main audience is much more of a Latino sort of audience. So they do focus on lucha stars, ethnic stars. So there is a lot of that in there, but they seem to move away a little bit from the sort of flippy-floppy lucha stuff that looks like a dance. Like, I've noticed that stuff hasn't seemed to play as very well over the last few weeks, and they've sort of toned it down to the point where it's just guys in masks doing exciting moves, but beating the shit out of each other at the same time. And I like that. That's the kind of lucha libre I'd like to watch. Also, it's just, everything makes sense. The commentary has improved tenfold. Not that the commentary was terrible beforehand. I mean, Tony Schiavone is really good. Rich Bikini is really good. But they've got Jim Cornette doing shots for them now, which has just improved the commentary just amazingly. They seem to keep Matt Stryker off the fucking stick as of late, which is really good because Matt Stryker just sucks. And I just like it. They got feuds going. They got heat going. They're getting real heat from the crowds. Some of their heels are doing a really good job where they're actually getting the audience involved. It's not just a bunch of fat dudes in Bullet Club t-shirts with neck beards doing chants and trying to pop the crowd and pop themselves and shit. So, I mean, there's still that element in the crowd. There always will be, but it's been reduced. Like, they've been getting people actually excited to watch their stuff. And it's not super exciting. It's like not the over exciting, fast-paced indie stuff that you see in some other promotions either. It's a little mixture of everything. They pace stuff well, and they get you involved in the angles and in the characters. So that's what I really like about it. And who are my favorite wrestlers in MLW right now? Without a doubt, I love Contra Unit. You got Jacob Fatu and Joseph Samael, who are just awesome. Great heels, and they've just sort of taken MLW by storm. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman, is great. He's basically The Miz, but fully formed. Like, he's only been in the business a couple of years, and he's already doing like the sort of Miz character way better than The Miz ever did. But he's got an added sort of rich kid, like Donald Trump trust fund baby-ish kind of thing going on, and he's a good shit talker, and he's decent in the ring. In his Dynasty group with what's his name? I think it's Richard Holiday and Alexander Hammerstone is really good heel group. So they've already got like 3 strong heel groups and a bunch of faces that keep bouncing off them on the TV. So I mean, you got the Dynasty, you got Contra Unit, and then you have Selena De La Renta's group. Don't ask me to pronounce it right offhand if I don't have it in front of me here, but It's the one of Low-Key, L.A. Park, El Hijo de L.A. Park, and Ricky Martinez. Great little group. But other guys in MLW, I really like Rich Swann's run in MLW. He's really good here as a fucking heel. He's been tagging up with Myron Reed, who I really like. He's kind of reminds me of Christian. He sort of looks like Christian. Sort of same physique in a way. Both these guys are skinny, and usually I don't gravitate towards the sort of skinny guys, but these guys have been healing it up really well. They're getting personalities, they're getting stuff to do. I like Lance Anoa'i. Mance Warner is now in MLW. This is my first time seeing him. He's really great. Teddy Hart and Davey Boy Smith Jr. are in here with Brian Pillman Jr. as the Hart Foundation, another good faction. They're pretty much like, they've turned themselves from tweeners to like the main face faction in MLW now. And honestly, I think my favorite guy though in MLW is L.A. La Parka. He's like 50-something now, fat as fuck, but he's having like the run of his life, and he's just much more entertaining than when he was in WCW, where he was lean and mean and dancing around all the time. He can still sort of dance a little bit, but he's just having great matches, and he's fun to watch. What could WWE do to get me to be heavily invested in them again? Well, I can think of a few things, and these are things that are probably never going to happen. They could probably cut themselves down to 6 major pay-per-views a year. They could cut Raw down to 2 hours. They could keep the rosters totally separate. They could have an enforcement of the rules and respect for the referees. Because if you don't show that on screen, then why should anyone buy that these are contests that anyone should respect? Why should you buy that what the referees have to say matters if there's always being like, like if not, someone's not like disqualified for cheating all the time, like if it's not a consistent thing, if rules are not consistently enforced, then they don't matter. And when a rule is broken, no one cares. It's just simple stuff like that they don't really do anymore. They should push people that are over. If someone's over, they should try pushing them and seeing how far they can go with them instead of dropping them overnight, which is just stupid. I mean, putting a title on somebody and then jobbing them for a few months in a row is fucking retarded. Putting people in losing streak gimmicks is fucking retarded. But they keep doing this stupid shit. And it just makes it uninteresting for me to watch. I can't get wrapped up in it. I still want to, suspend my disbelief and enjoy stuff. I mean, you can have all the great fucking matches you want. You can have AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan come out and fucking wrestle each other every goddamn night of the week. But if I can't get behind the characters and I can't get behind the fucking stories, then why am I watching it? There's no point. They just, overall, they need to work on keeping kayfabe as well. Like, that's a big thing, and they just don't do it. I know people say, "Oh, kayfabe's dead. Once you let it out of the box, you can't put it back in." It's bullshit. You can still fucking get people to believe. You can still suspend their disbelief, and you can keep things logical and have things make sense. You don't have to fucking wink at the audience all the time and say, "Yeah, this is bullshit. This isn't Roman Reigns. This is Joe, whatever my fucking name is, and this is the real me talking. This isn't Triple H talking. This is me, Paul, talking to you, Dave, and I'm gonna fight you for beating up Ric Flair." Like, fucking get real. Get fucking real. And by what I mean get real is keep kayfabe. Keep it a little under wraps, boys. It's just fucking bullshit. I don't want to see Paul fight Dave. I want to see Triple H fight Batista over issues. It's really simple. It's so simple, and they just don't do it. They think it's too simple or something. Or they just, I don't know. I don't know what they think. I don't care what they think anymore, honestly. Okay, moving on. Tom Brooker asks, how successful do you think AEW will actually be? That's probably the hardest question to answer. I've got no fucking clue, dude. Because nobody really knows anything. I mean, Dave Meltzer swears up and down he knows, and he does damage control for every rumor that gets out there, but at this point, I don't trust a fucking thing Dave Meltzer says about anything anymore. He's obviously a paid shill for AEW at this point. I mean, they're his boys, so he is gonna fucking hype them up and defend them. I hope they're successful. I mean, it'll be great. More places for people to work. That's always a good thing, but you just see so many different rumors every goddamn day, and I just try not to latch onto them. We just have to wait and see. I mean, I love making the snide jokes once in a while, as much as everyone else, about how they're basically just a merchandise company at this point. But we'll see. I mean, every day you hear, oh, they've got this much money, they got these TV deals, and then the next day you hear, no, they're gonna have to pay to get on TV, and basically like everyone else for the most part. So I know until they start running consistent shows and start booking things and having storylines and characters and stuff, there's no way to tell. This fan base of religious zealots out there who are like, oh, they're gonna challenge WWE and Vince is shaking in his boots. It's absolute bullshit. It's a fucking fantasy world that some people are living in. You don't know. Nobody knows at this point. And we just got to stop and sit back and give it a year or something and see what they do. See if they do well or if they burn out and fade away really quickly. Who knows? CB Fall. Hey, CB Fall. Super fan. CB Fall, who is not only a Jobber Radio fan, he's a fan of my podcast as well. Always nice to see him leave some comments. He says, what made you a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling? I think it's awesome. It was just a better alternative to the shit I was watching. I've always been sort of a New Japan fan, even in their tough years where they were just sucking and they didn't have really good stories or champs or anything like that. I still kind of preferred the in-ring. At this point, their style has become a little bit more westernized, a little bit more hybrid, and there's things about it I don't like, but it's still a refreshing change from what happens in WWE, or like Impact or something along those lines. At least what Impact was for quite a long while. Just the booking made more sense. The matches were good. It was less focused on silly bullshit. I mean, those are sort of the big things about New Japan is they try to keep it more like a sport, and they protect their titles, or at least they did protect their titles a lot better. They've been faltering a little bit here and there with that. There are some problems with the company that I don't like. I think they've kind of destroyed tag wrestling in Japan at this point, just by the fact that they've kind of burnt out tag wrestling the way they do it anyway. It's nothing like All Japan tag wrestling was back in the early 90s, that's for sure. It's just tag wrestling now is an excuse to get everyone on the card for New Japan. That's basically it. It's an afterthought, and I don't like it. But in fact, I wish they would just have all their tag stuff on dark matches and not show them. Like, don't even show them on New Japan unless I want to look for them in the archive. Otherwise, don't include them on the show, because most of their tag matches now are just boring as shit. And, I mean, if I want to see young lions, do their thing and learn the ropes, show me some singles matches where they're, having spirited contests against veterans in like 10-minute matches or something like that, not tag matches. New Japan's tag matches are kind of crappy. But that being said, I still like New Japan quite a bit, and I definitely prefer it over WWE, that's for sure. Okay, just Diano. I can never remember which it is. Sorry, Josh. Yes, who do you see as a future WWE superstar from the indie promotions you watch? Who should be on our radars? I am so surprised that Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix have not shown up in WWE at this point. I guess technically with Impact that kind of makes them superstars in a sense on national TV anyway, but I don't know what the story is there. I haven't looked too deep into it on why they're not with WWE at this point. You would think they would be. They're like basically the biggest stars in the indie promotions at this point. Biggest Mexican stars anyway, or lucha stars. I don't know if they're all Mexican or not. But yeah, Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix would be a perfect fit. Like, they're so much better than these Lucha House Party rejects that they have going on right now in WWE. I don't know why they haven't been swallowed up. I must assume, like, they just don't want to go. Like, they're making better money in the indies, like the Young Bucks were doing, you know. I guess maybe that's the reason. Someone I'm sure can enlighten me in the comments section. Mance Warner, I think he would be a good fit somewhere in the WWE. Maybe not on the main roster, but maybe NXT, or maybe even 205. I can't remember how much he weighs. He's not super big, but Mance Warner has the personality, that's for sure. I've really enjoyed watching him just talk. Like, that guy can talk. He's kind of a Stone Cold Steve Austin derivative in a way, but he's really fun, and I like him. Maxwell Jacob Freeman, MJF, I think he's a natural for like an NXT or 205 Live kind of thing. Not so much maybe main roster, as much as they do let smaller guys go these days in the main roster here and there. They might want more weight on this guy before they bring him up. Alexander Hammerstone has a chance, and I think the two Samoan guys in MLW right now, Jacob Fatu from Contra Unit, I think he has a chance. He's like Umaga level good, probably even better. Lance Anoa'i, I apologize. I'm bad at pronouncing shit, but both of those guys are super talented, and they're basically like big high flyers who are really, really good, just naturals. I mean, it's hard to find a guy from those Samoan families that are terrible. Like, they're usually all pretty fucking at least solid to great in the ring, and both these guys are pretty great from what I've seen. So they'd be guys to look at, I think. Joseph Samael as well from Contra Unit, I think, has got a great character, and I think he'd be a good fit somewhere. Good, if you wanted to flavor up your roster with some brawling and hardcore stuff, I think he works really well in that regard. He's kind of like a original Sheik, but one who can work better. He's just like an all-over better worker. So now we move to the Storm of Storms. I think this is... I totally blanked. It's from the JRPL. I apologize. The Warden, maybe? Maybe it's the Warden? I can't remember. He asked a bunch of stuff here, so we'll go through it. So first off, he wants to know what my favorite match of all time is. That's hard. I see he's got a couple of questions like that here. I'll float a couple at you. I don't know if I can say of all time, because there's some that I watch over and over again that I really like. One that comes to mind right away is probably the Magnum TA Tully Blanchard from 1985, their I Quit match. I still watch that a lot. Never get tired of that one. Two Bret Hart ones I can think of right off the bat. The Bret Hart Steve Austin WrestleMania 13, and Bret Hart Owen Hart from SummerSlam 94, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. Flair Funk, I Quit from 1989 Clash of the Champions. That was great. I still watch that once in a while. Then there's like all kinds of Japanese stuff with like Misaharu Mitsuwa and Kenta Kobashi. Like you could pick almost anything they did in the early to mid 90s. Fuck. I could go down a rabbit hole. But I'll leave it at that. Magnum Tully is definitely one I hold up at a high pinnacle because it's just got all the heat and all the story, and it's just visceral and nasty in a way that some modern hardcore matches can't even approach. Okay. Do you have a least favorite match of all time? Oh, man. This is a tougher one, I think, actually, because I generally know when something's going to be terrible, and I just kind of avoid it. So I got to think on this for a sec. I think when thinking about this question, it's not necessarily just that the work is bad in the ring, because I've seen a million matches where the work was just bad. How about any of those TNA reverse battle royals? The gimmick on that is just the fucking stupidest thing. Fucking ridiculous. Where you have to fight your way into the ring instead of knocking people out. So you have to like fight on the outside of the ring, and somehow that gets you into the ring where there's like 7 people in the ring, and then that starts a regular battle royal where then you toss them out, and then the last 2 have a singles match, and it was so fucking dumb. And they did a couple of those too. I fucking know what the fuck they were thinking of. Big Boss Man Al Snow, Kennel from Hell from Unforgiven 98 or 99? 99, I think it was. That was fucking terrible. The whole thing about that was just dumb and insulting. It was just... That whole fucking feud was stupid. It was so stupid. It was a waste of both the guys. Hulk Hogan versus the Warrior, Halloween Havoc, of course. I think that was just a shit sandwich served up on a fucking turd bun and a plate of crap. It's just absolute garbage. They couldn't even do a fucking flash paper fireball spot properly. Here's one. The Mega Powers versus the Alliance to End Hulkamania. I can't remember what the pay-per-view was from, but it was Hulk Hogan and Macho Man in WCW versus Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Kevin Sullivan, and 2 other guys from the Dungeon Doom. And it was a setup where there was these different layers of cage, and it was like a video game or something, because different guys in the Alliance were in different cages, and Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man had to basically fight into each level of cage, and they slowly went up. And there was so much cages around the ring, you couldn't even see the action in the ring. And it wasn't really like a match, it was more like a video game where they just beat up the guys, almost like they were final bosses or some shit, and then moved on to the next cage, or the next level, you know. Fucking stupid. Ridiculous fucking idea. And, let's throw this one in as well. Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker, because that was just dumb. Gonzalez won with the fucking chloroform rag, or as some of us in some circles like to call it, the Ether Bunny. Ether in a rag. The Ether Bunny. The Ether Bunny came and visited you. We're doing this response on Good Friday. Easter's coming, so yeah, the Ether Bunny. Alright. He's got another question here. Who in the WWE deserves to be WWE champion by the next WrestleMania? Who hasn't been WWE champion yet? Big E. I still don't know why they haven't fucking put rockets on this guy and shot him to the moon. This Kofi Kingston fucking title win would be a perfect time to turn Big E, have him squash Kofi Kingston. Even if he doesn't win the belt from him, just squash him, get in a feud with Kofi, beat him up a little bit, get some more opponents under his belt, beat them up, move up to the main event, win the title from whoever, and then Kofi can get like the rematch in WrestleMania against Big E. And there, all the Kofi marks have their wet dream of having Kofi Kingston yet again main event. Or, well, not main event, but being a featured match in WrestleMania and maybe get another title win. Who knows? Whatever. But Big E should... There's no reason why this guy isn't... Maybe it's because he's black. I don't know, Vince. But yeah, there's no reason why he shouldn't be WWE champion in the next little while. Like, it feels like, why are you sitting on this guy? You should be building him. He also asks, after seeing how poorly Ring of Honor was at G1 Supercard, how would you make It's too early for this shit. How would you make Ring of Honor better? Wow. I'd stop relying on New Japan. At this point, these guys look like this cuck promotion for New Japan where they're just the feeder system. And I mean, you can't just make all your make your bed and lay in it too, as far as being like just the feeder promotion for New Japan. I don't know. If you want to be a player in the game, I don't see you being that. I'm not saying necessarily cut all your ties from New Japan, but they feature way too many New Japan guys at the top of their card, and it makes them look like they're bitches. It really does. They need to focus on developing more homegrown talent within their company. Focus less on bringing in names from other indie promotions. I mean, that's fine and good, but what they're really doing right now is hot-shotting people and angles, and that stuff can upswing your business, but historically, that stuff eventually burns out and ends up hurting you down the line. They also need better taping schedules. All their stuff is so fucking behind everybody else when it comes to taping schedules. I mean, if you can't keep a consistent taping schedule like, say, NXT does, you're in bad shape. Because everyone already knows what's going to happen, like, at least a month beforehand in some cases. And I don't know, I think it makes you look really Bush League at this point, and you don't want that, because you got a bunch of great workers, you got a lot of talent, you have the potential to set up interesting stories and feuds, but you just expose yourself all the time when you can't get stuff like that down. They don't protect their minor titles very well either. The TV title has been bouncing around like a fucking hot potato as of late, when it used to be super strong. And when they push mid-card guys into the TV title, that used to mean something. Now it doesn't seem like it means that much anymore. Like, you see these TV title guys hold it for like a couple months, and then they're back to floating around in an endless feud. Like Silas Young. What are they doing with this guy? He should be way, way higher up in the card than he is right now. I mean, they had him flirting with fighting for the world title at one point, and then they just dropped it. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with some of these guys. They need more homegrown talent. They need jobbers they can develop to squash. They need to stop bending over backwards for New Japan, I guess. That's what I'm thinking anyway. He also asks, who, if anybody, should be Raw or SmackDown GM? Nobody. Fuck GMs. We don't need it. It's something that needs to be killed from wrestling. And the less authority figures, the better. the referees should be the authority figures, and if you have controversial decisions once in a while, you bring out your fucking Jack Tunney character, who says, the board of directors have decided on this, and this is what the decision's going to be. Other than that, you don't fucking bring them out. You don't have a fucking McMahon GM character come out every fucking show and say, here's what's going to happen tonight. And then you don't have... Another thing bugs me about WWE is where they don't really have that many set cards for their shows. You got a 3-hour show, 3 hours of Raw, and you have maybe like 2 announced matches. And then everything else is just like matches on the fly, or wrestlers booking their own matches, or GMs booking matches out of the blue and shit. Who the fuck runs a fucking sport like that? Like, this is supposed to be a wrestling league with matches, with contests for titles and for rankings and shit like that. And you got 2 matches booked for your 3-hour show? Get the fuck out of here. It's so stupid. It just kills the suspension of disbelief for me again. It's just like, really? So what were you going to do with your TV time if you hadn't had a match booked for this segment? You were just going to sit there on your thumbs? You're going to have fucking Michael Cole trying to make up something? Like, was he going to run down the fucking next pay-per-view for a half hour or some shit like that? Like, really? It's just it's stupid. It makes no fucking sense. Anyway. And finally, he finishes off with, who is the most underrated old school wrestler in your opinion? Oh, again, this is one where I can give you a short list of guys. I think maybe Arn Anderson for me is still... The fact that he never got a world title kind of bites at me a little bit, because he was good enough to hold the NWA strap as far as I'm concerned. In ring, on the mic, he could have done it all. He could have been a uber heel, but he was always just kind of like the enforcer, the second guy, the Ric Flair's best friend. You could say the same about Tully Blanchard as well. Tully Blanchard, I think, was more than capable. Terry Taylor, I think, is highly underrated. Red Rooster killed him dead, and apparently his attitude killed him dead too, because he's just a fucking wormy, backstabbing stooge, I guess. But Terry Taylor was fucking great in the ring. Like, when he came in to WCW, right from his he was with Bill Watts's Universal Wrestling Federation for a while there. He was great as a heel there, and he came in, and I guess he just rubbed people the wrong way, and he just got buried. He went to WWF, got the Red Rooster gimmick, and then he came back to WCW and could never live it down. So as soon as he came back, people were just like, Red Rooster, or they made Rooster Crows, and his career was just kind of dead after that. Too bad. He was really great in the ring. Exotic Adrian Street is another one. I think the biggest problem is that he was so short. But his character was great, way ahead of its time, way better than Goldust. Same idea in a lot of ways, but way better than Goldust. Super entertaining guy. If you should check out his fucking matches. Find Exotic Adrian Street. Check out his shit on YouTube. He's fucking great. Legit shooter too. Before he did the ambiguously gay wrestling gimmick, with his ponytails and the leather and stuff that he wore, he was a coal miner. And he was a legit tough guy and a legit shooter in the ring. He could fuck you up. So Adrian Street's fucking great. Another one I'll mention, and I'll end it on here. Rick the Model Martel, or just Rick Martel. He was AWA World Champion 1 or 2 times, I think, but never made it big in WWF and WCW as far as like getting past a certain level, and I think that was unfortunate because he was really great as well. Great talker, great in ring. His last big run before he retired was his TV title run in WCW, where he had a bunch of matches with Booker T, and I think he had a couple of Stevie Ray as well, and he got injured. I can't remember the exact match, but I just actually watched it a little while ago, where he had a match with Booker T, and Booker T hip tossed him, and he went right across the ring, and he landed on the ropes wrong with his leg, and you could see where his fucking leg just went. Didn't quite break, but he obviously fucked his knee, and that was the end of his career after that, which is unfortunate, because he was having a really good run as this like KG veteran with the TV title, and he was, you know, schooling Booker T and stuff. He was another like tune-up Booker T for the main event opponent kind of thing that they were sort of throwing at Booker T at that point. Rick Martel was great, and unfortunately just never made it to like the top title in the Big Two. So there we go. Thanks for the questions, guys. I hope this was good enough for you guys. I hope I answered your questions well enough. And we'll do it again here soon. Promise. So have a good one, guys. Good weekend. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.